Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Bryce Vine.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is Daryl Ames.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hi, this is Bob Nickman from the Exploding Human podcast with Bob Nickman, and this is the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Yes, it is. We are at Il Forno over in Santa Monica, and Brenna's riding with me. And we're having a good time. And Brenna is on her phone playing you playing solitaire? That's pretty sweet. And Bob Nickman is here. Bob Nickman is not just a podcast host from the Exploding Human podcast, but he's also one of them fancy Hollywood writers.
Oh, yeah.
A comedian.
So fancy.
A comedian, someone that I enjoy, who his company are actually working on a project together that maybe we'll talk about. But just wanted you guys to all know that there's some incredible people out here that you may or may not ever get a chance to meet. And that's one of the things that is great about doing these podcasts is we can sit here in a lovely little cafe on a sunny afternoon on a Friday, not be in traffic because the 405 is probably fucked right now, but have a great conversation. So I want to just talk to the folks, especially all over the world, because we got people in Sweden and Germany and Japan and Australia, New Zealand. Hi, Kat. All kinds of people that are listening. I'm not waving over there.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you saw an actual cat.
No, there's a cat. Kat Connor is a writer of novels, and she lives in New Zealand. And she often plays us in her bookstore while she's working throughout the day.
Oh, hi, Kat.
Yeah.
With K-A-T, I'm assuming.
C.
Really?
Kat Connor.
Okay.
Yeah, but with all C's. Anyhow, so we've met so many incredible people and had so many opportunities. I just love to have these conversations. It's great. And you and I could talk about anything, but what strikes your fancy right now?
Oh, man, I just, happy to be alive. Let's put it that way. Had a lot of death in my life this year. Past year. I didn't even think I was going to talk about that, but I've been thinking about a number of people that have passed away in the last few days. Yeah. And I haven't talked about it with anybody, and it just popped out of my brain.
Yeah.
And it's just like I just want to say I miss them.
Yeah.
Them, and I'm saying them because there's like 5 people.
Golly.
Yeah.
What kind of circles of contact? Are we talking close family?
Well, my father
friends?
is probably the big one.
In the last 5 days?
No, recently. I had about 5 people in the last 6 months.
Oh, wow. Okay, so your pop, he passed along?
That was, an interesting thing because I was talking to somebody else about it, how he was ready, and he was ready for a number of years. So when he passed, there was a huge relief because he was sick, and not feeling well for a long time. He had Parkinson's and a number of things, and he used to say to me, I'm done, but I'm not sick enough to die. I'm not well enough to enjoy my life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even morbid. It was just sort of I'm stuck. He was just frustrated.
Yeah.
It was hard to watch, but I was very relieved. In a sense, when it happened, and it was quite beautiful that he, led such a long life. He was 95.
Right. Yeah. There's like the different categories of death, and I often ask, like, was it a surprise, was it a shock, or was it relief? Because the surprise is like you were alive, and then poof, you're dead. The shock is like we knew he wasn't doing well, and then poof, he was dead. And then there's it's good.
That was what you'd kind of hope for, other than the long sort of deterioration, which was a number of years. And then I lost a close friend who was a comedian that I'd known for 30 years. That was a surprise.
Yeah,
it wasn't sudden, but it was fast. It was liver cancer, and by the time he told me till the time he died, it was less than 2 months. So it was fast.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly right. That's the shocking kind where you're just like he had a cold in February, and then he went and saw the doctor, and then he was dead. Just like bam.
Yeah.
Does that stuff put you in a depressed state at all? Are you prone towards depression, or?
I'm prone towards hopelessness.
He laughs dramatically.
And futility.
Yeah.
Well, I'm laughing about it because I don't indulge it.
Yeah.
I have in the past when I was younger. It was sort of a. There's a great line. Did you ever see the movie Barfly?
Oh, yeah. God, way back.
Yeah, it was written by Charles Bukowski,
Yeah.
and it was, not
Kind of autobiographical.
kind
but
of, yeah. But there's a line in there where a guy's, he's the lead character that's kind of him says, "Humanity, you never had it from the beginning." And I remember jumping out of my seat when I saw that. I go, "That's it! That guy nailed it!"
Yeah.
And that was my worldview for a really long time, and it still is to a degree. There's a feeling that I get a lot of the times of, what is this? It's just this giant failed experiment.
Yeah.
Do I have a lot of joy in my life? I do, and I try to seek more of that because I see how short it is and how ephemeral and all those kinds of things. But left to not working on myself, that's where I go.
That's interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up. And gosh, we can branch off so many different ways here, but I'm going to take the conversation for right now and go in this direction. So I struggle with PTSD, and I got a group that I go to. We're all a bunch of veterans, and just a lot. I always tell my therapist, I'm like, some of this stuff I know is just life. And he's like, yeah, but you've got other things like you get triggered in a certain way because there's been a high threat area has been my norm for so long. I can walk around in a high threat state and handle it. It's like that means when there's low threat, like you have problems getting everything chemically back into your balance. So yeah, you can react to it, but now you have all these different chemicals balanced out in a way to respond to that. And so for me, like my body wants to go to that state. It's almost like it's a natural thing. So I do get depressed because I'm used to being up. And then I get down and I get not hopelessness, but like a sense of like impending doom.
Yeah, dread.
Something really bad's about to happen because that's what my brain is thinking all the time. It's like, no, something bad's going to happen. Be ready. And
I can freak myself out. I got to be really careful about my thoughts.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, life is all about thought management.
Okay.
Whether you have had trauma such as you've had or just moving through life, if you're not mindful and managing your thoughts in some way, it's really easy to go down the rabbit hole and fast. I remember the first time I really freaked myself out. I was young. I was driving in the car with my mother. I was probably about 9.
Right.
And I'm looking at her, and she's driving.
Yeah.
And my mother was a very sweet woman who, cared about me. It wasn't anything like there was no insanity or any of that kind of stuff. And I'm looking at her, and I start to think, what is going on behind her eyes, inside of her brain?
Yeah.
What is the governor on someone's brain, hers in particular at this moment, that's keeping her from swerving the car and crashing it?
Right.
Or stopping the car and choking me. and
yeah,
I didn't have any of that in my life.
Right,
I didn't have
right.
but I just started to go, there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing that stops a human being other than who knows what it is.
Right.
And I'm in danger.
Yes.
She's crazy. I started to talk myself and I scared myself.
Yeah.
I remember sort of rolling down the window and sticking my head out and trying to, deep breathe. 9 years old.
Yeah.
And I had no reason to be that guy.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's like when you look at the airplane door and you think anybody could open. In reality, you can't.
Yeah.
But you think anybody can grab
one.
this thing. Like I rely on everybody to keep. So I have those kind of thoughts, not commonly, but yeah, you can definitely get yourself riled up and going in the wrong direction. I was thinking too about one of the things about having a gun in a place where you need a gun is you think you always need a gun. And I've worked like I just don't want to be in that zone. Also, because I'm a spy, I'm always looking for threat. Threat. Where's the threat? And I know a lot of my people make their money doing that, and I would rather be broke, which I am. But I'd rather be broke than live in that threat-based world. Like, yeah, I can go get a job with a contractor looking for threat, but I don't want to fill my brain with that. I've seen enough dead people,
That's a good choice.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
so that brings me to the reason why I wanted to kind of take is you said something cool is you're talking about joy and everything. And I commonly say, like, I like to collect joy, whether it's my own, like being with my daughter, and I love sometimes she frustrates the shit out of me, but mostly like she brings me such wonderful joy. Like I love to be around her. The other day I throat punched myself on accident, and we laughed 5 minutes about that. It was just great. So that's a joy moment. I collect that. And then I ask people often, like, when was the last time, Bob, that you just had just absolutely unbridled, overwhelming joy?
Oh, man, that's the hard question.
Right? But if I said, when was the last time you were pissed or angry or just frustrated as shit?
Yeah. Right.
It's so easy. So I try to force myself, especially like when I feel like the impending doom thing, or like when I reset and do my mindful pause, I think, when was the last time I had joy? And it makes me remember, oh, that's right. The other day I throat punched myself on accident, and it was hilarious. And we just had this moment that wasn't just funny, but it was us infectiously laughing.
Right.
You know?
There was in the middle of that sort of absurdity, there was a love connection between two people. Of like, boy, is life absurd and fun, and just like, what was that? I love that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a feeling that, I mean, life is hard, as you know from the last recent past, losing 5 different people in your life. You know, as soon as you think it's going to be easy, there's a curveball coming, you know, whether it's dropping your keys and you're just like, fuck, and like, all you do is drop them. You know, individually, it's no big deal, but when it's like another thing on your back, it's so crazy. I feel like we're so hard on ourselves politically, especially like right now. And I don't know if that's any different than any other time in history, because we're really bad at keeping that in perspective. But we're just so hard on ourselves here in America with like what we expect us to have and do. Like, honestly, it's really fucking nice here. You know, and all you have to do is go somewhere else and go, wow.
Well, that really is an interesting thing, how a country that has so much to offer and so much ease and pleasure and even free time, and certainly not a constant, you know, bombs aren't dropping and none of that stuff that goes on all over the world. And then you become, I think, as a country, it's like an entitled rich kid who's miserable because it's never enough.
Never enough.
Because they have so much. And I think travel is a huge thing to solve world problems.
Yeah.
I think if people see other people and how they live and get to meet them and see that they're not different.
Right.
They might look different, they might talk different, but they're not really different.
No, for sure.
And I think that would settle a lot of problems.
There's a lot of folks that just, and I'll use President Trump just because he's so divisive, and this isn't an endorsement of him. It's just, he creates so much animosity that over half of us are always going to be in a rage, and that's just no way to live. Yes, of course there's problems. No country's perfect, but everybody has the opportunity here. And if they don't, there's a lot of people that want to give them the opportunity. You know, it just really isn't that bad. And then if it's so bad, why is it better than it was 20 years ago? And we can argue, okay, 20 years ago, it wasn't really, okay, fine. Go back 40 years ago. Now it's the late 70s. I'm positive it's better now than it was back then. I mean, you look at how life was in big cities and everything else. You know, we're 10 years removed from like the end of the civil rights movement and all that stuff. And there's still a lot of anger. The N-word wasn't the N-word. It was actually just said, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Openly,
I was
all the
thinking
time.
about late 60s and all this. You know, our country was really violent. Mid 60s to early 70s.
Yeah.
I mean,
Now
there
go
was
back to
craziness that was going on. It's not even, I mean, there's stuff now, but it was just as insane.
And go back, another 20 or 30 years, and all of a sudden you're in World War II and Korea and all these different conflicts that were, and the Cold War and all these other things. It's really, really, we've done a lot. Yeah. We had a guest on the other day. He's got a great brand. C-SPAN paid him to go around to all of the First Lady places, things, events, histories, and grab it. And so he became the First Lady's man.
Oh,
yeah.
Great title.
Clever as hell.
Yeah.
And one of the things he's like, you think about where we are in the world. Woodrow Wilson was president until he basically had the stroke that shut him down, and his wife took over. Before she was even allowed to vote, she's in effect the president of the United States.
That's amazing.
And you know what? We've come a long way. And we were doing good back then, to be able to have that happen. So, I think we're just too hard on ourselves politically. Not that it's unimportant to always advance, but we do.
Yeah. We're also hard on ourselves in a million other ways, too.
Boy.
We work way too hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Your boss will gladly buy you lunch if you sit at your desk and keep working.
Yeah.
And you know what? We'll gladly do it.
I mean, I love these countries. They shut down for a couple hours in the afternoon. That makes so much. Like, what are we doing? Race to nowhere is, a phrase I always liked because it just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I think just biologically, I like to take a nap. I've always been that guy since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to now.
Yeah.
It's considered laziness or sloth. Or you're not working hard enough. You're not striving to do what?
Yeah. I have to tell myself to stop working after 10 o'clock at night because I'll keep editing. Because if I edit now, I'll have less to do tomorrow. Even though the next day I'll edit till 10 at night, And I also am a napper, especially now in a combat zone. I get to call my shots a lot more, and I haven't done that work in a while. But I will take a nap. And if anybody's got a problem, I will always say, "You've got a problem with me taking a nap? Grab your rucksack, do a day with me. You let me know." Mm-hmm. And that shuts everybody up. They're like, "Yeah, you're right. Never mind. Shut up." But they've never taken the challenge because no one wants to. But you're right. There is the perception for those that apparently, look down upon it. But it's what clears my brain. I come back with new ideas. Yeah, naps are awesome, but it's not accepted by a lot of people.
I just think, like, at the end, am I going to go, "Oh man, I should have worked, much more hours," or am I going to say, "I wish I would have enjoyed myself more"?
Right.
I think it's the second one.
No, it for sure is the second one. U2's got an album out, and the audience is like, "Oh, Jesus, Pete's talking about U2 again." But the thing is, the Songs of Experience is what the album's about. It's like, what is the middle-aged man telling his younger self and everything else? Like, what's the last song that you would like to sing? What would it be about? Quit being so afraid. Like, if I could go back and tell my younger self, like, quit being so afraid. Create something. So what if no one likes it? Create it. Go do that and make that part of your path. Is build new creation things. And not everybody's a creator like we are, but whatever that thing is, those chances, take them. So if you have to work harder, okay, now you're working harder for yourself. You're investing in yourself instead of 12-hour days for your boss. So your boss can be like, "Yeah, not good enough." Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that the underlying issue of all of it is fear.
Yeah.
And I always have to ask myself, well, why? What am I afraid of? And what if that actually happened? Then what would happen? Then what would happen? Then what would happen? And it always comes down to this irrational fear is I'll be destroyed.
Yeah.
In some way. If I ask for, this thing because I want to do, if I want to do, X and I ask for Y to get there and I say no, I'll feel bad, then I'll be worthless, then I'll be destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or is it just a thing that happens and I'll go, all right, that's done. I'll go to the next thing.
Right. And then if you took the things that have actually happened in your life, like losing 5 people in a very short amount of time, you'd be like, that would destroy me. And yet here you are, dealing with it. I mean, the hardest things in your life, you would terrify your younger self if you said, this is coming.
Oh, absolutely.
But we borrow all this trouble. That's the thing I try not to do is I try not to borrow trouble. And like you, especially in combat, like, I'm going to shut down and go to bed. I need rest. I'm listening to myself. And then if anybody has anything to say, I'm like, I promise the war will still be here tomorrow when I wake up. Nothing I'm doing is like, lights out, it's over.
Yeah, I wonder how much this need for people to feel important is part of that kind of drive to overdo it. It's like, if I stop and I don't do it, does that mean I'm really not as important as I think I am and as I think I need to be?
Yeah,
I wonder if that's a piece of it because it seems like it might be.
Yeah.
Do I feel more important when I'm super busy, or am I having these unpleasant thoughts that I want to distract myself by overworking, or because it's hard to know because I kind of jump around from different things. It's last night I was working on I'm helping this friend of mine with a script, and I'm giving him notes and I'm doing little rewrites in there, and really and I was very close to the end. I was about 10 pages from the end, and I was kind of tired, and I was like, I'm going to power through this. I'm going to finish it and send it to him. And then I said, no, I'm not. I'll get up tomorrow and I'll do it. And I got up this morning, and I didn't feel like doing it. I wanted to work out. That was more important to me. And then when I got back, I had to do something else, and then I came to do this.
Yeah.
It's still there.
Yeah.
I'll finish it tonight or tomorrow. and is going to make any difference that I waited 2 days.
Yeah, only you make that difference. And if your friend's holding it against you, all you got to be like, you know what?
No, he's like, man, you do this stuff fast. He's always like, this is great.
Yeah, right.
Because everybody else, they take forever.
Yeah.
He goes, you do it in like 3 days.
So I was having my bouts of depression are a lot more manageable now because I've got more tools now that I've got some help. But I was having a pretty bad bout of depression a while ago. And it ties to a bunch of things. But one is like struggling to try to figure all this out and make money and everything. And money causes everybody stress. But I was telling Mark, Mark Valley is an actor. You probably heard of him. And he used to be part of the show. He does his own podcast. He's in Africa right now filming a thing. It's really cool. But I'm like, I know I said I was going to do this for you, but I just can't seem to get it done. And I'm a better friend than that. But he's like, oh, you're a fellow depressed guy. Well, let me just tell you, you are producing a lot of stuff. I see what you're doing. I know you're doing it. You may not feel like you're getting enough done, but you're getting a lot done. And I'm going to be fine. You're going to be fine, And sometimes you just need to hear that from someone else who's like, man, I've been there. And you'd be surprised at what you're actually doing, And even if it's just getting through the day for me, and I haven't had those kind of days in a while, but if you're in that state and you're listening and you're like, no, the bed is as far as I can get today, that's fine. You can put the bar that you have to get over right on the ground and just walk right over it and be like, I got over the bar today. And then next day, maybe lift it an inch, maybe not, but start to work on, get out of the house for 10 minutes, put some sunshine on your face or whatever it is. Because having 5 family members die or 5 people close to you dies is rough.
It's I still think a part of me detached a little bit for the survival piece of it, because sometimes it comes to me and it'll hit me. Yeah. When I'm least thinking about it, and I'll the other day I was just thinking about my dad, and I was just seeing him and thinking about all the good stuff he gave me, and maybe conflicts that I had with him, and in the end, none of that mattered. It was all just love, which was really a great thing to be able to just and to tell my friend that too, as he was dying, and we both knew that it was coming, and that. Each time we would talk, that's I love you, which is, for a couple of he-men like us.
There is something with that. And to have that pleasure, and I'll call it that because it really is, you are enjoying the last few visits with your friend ever. And a lot of that time is spent just in silent communication where you don't have to say anything. I just want to be here with you, and I think there's a joy in that. If you have the luxury of knowing that the end is nigh, you want to spend it with people like that.
Yeah. I remember reading about this, I guess it was a Buddhist thing. It was, they were talking about if life is like a smooth lake and somebody dies, and you throw a stone into the lake representing that person. Now, the more important and impactful, the bigger the boulder. Now it's a big boulder creating a lot of waves and ripples that last a longer time, or maybe it's a little pebble, somebody who's not that much of an impact on other people. But very, very, very quickly, that lake smooths over and becomes the smooth lake again. So what is the importance? It's really just about going back into the whatever that is. That place we come from or are already in, just in a different way. So I always love that analogy. It's like how important,
right? Yeah,
is anybody really that way? I mean, we're all sort of equally important in perspective to the lake. The pebble and the boulder, to me, are not all that different.
They aren't. They're really not different at all, because who's scoring the waves?
Well, other rocks and pebbles. Yeah.
It's like, whatever. It's good that you did that, and you'll be dead longer than you were alive really fast.
I know, and it lasts a really long time.
Yeah. I mean, that's just how it is. And so what do you want to do? You want to focus on the game over moment?
No.
And what you got? Or do you want to focus on sitting next to your daughter and, just trying to enjoy those moments?
Well, that's why I like that you talk about the importance of joy, because it's been the biggest challenge for me, and I think it's courageous to say it out loud and to pursue it, because there's a lot of people that don't. I don't know if they're afraid of it, or they don't know what it is, or it's a threat, or it's so
I
elusive
think
that they
it's
don't
easier
say it.
to do the other thing.
It is, because what if I say, oh, I want to be joyful, and I'm not? You failed. You failed, sir.
You suck at being joyful.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm shitty. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of one of the reasons I'm going to bring it to myself here and my podcast.
Please.
Why I started doing the Exploding Human, which is about health, healing, mind, body, and spirit. And I talk to a lot of different practitioners, alternative healers, and people who've overcome challenges.
Right.
And it's really about making life better for other people. And I started doing this because many years ago, as I started to get healthier, I used to drink a lot and do some other stuff. And when I stripped that away and I was standing there going, now what do I do with my time?
Yeah.
And what kind of life do I want to lead? I started to explore a variety of things from, spiritual to physical to emotional.
Yeah.
So therapy and different types of, and exercise and food. So I started to, and I didn't know really where to go for that stuff. So I thought, well, boy, I'm doing the podcast that I would have liked to have existed back when I started doing that stuff. So I've had some pretty cool guests, you being one of them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott Husing was on at the same time. We talked about PTSD and suicide and those things. And, it is powerful. And when it comes to veterans in general, as we get to the end of our rope, we're so damn stubborn and, have to be tough all the time that we always think that someone else has less rope than us, so help them first. And then you get to the point where you're so poisoned against your own longevity that it's easier just to flip the switch, And it's a big problem because at some point you just don't fear. You don't want to continue. It's been bad for so long. There's no way out. And it's hard, who's got any right to tell that person otherwise? You could try, but that's an awful big ask.
Well, the mind is so powerful, too. To get in there and try to talk to...
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
Well, the mind is so powerful, too. To get in there and try to talk somebody into thinking a different way when they don't want it and they don't want to hear it or they're not ready, it's impossible.
And for some people, it's always been impossible. They were just never going to have a long life just because of, I definitely believe, we've had some geneticists on the show, like the genetic link to who we are, it's only getting stronger. We're only getting a better understanding of just how, your makeup, I'm making a motion that has nothing to do with anything. But
plus no one can see it. That's listening.
Your combination of genes, which slightly change over time too, you've got no control over that. You just get to deal with the outcome of how you respond to a given situation. And I think that's going to change how we look at certain things. And I'll even go on record and say it could be that at some point, suicide is not suicide. It's just, the termination of this life or whatever it is, and it turns out to be instead of a moment of weakness, it's a moment of enlightenment or whatever, however we want to change it, Like the person like your dad who's sick and spiraling, and it's like, that person gets the dignity of saying, what's the point of me being, and this is not your dad's case in particular, but there are a lot of older people that lose consciousness and just kind of cruise out for however many weeks or months. What's the point? If that person's like, at this point, any point after that, I'm good. Like we should be able to, I think we will, give that person the relief that they need. And the family too. How hard is that on a family, Yeah. You take 3 months off from work waiting for your dad to die and he doesn't die.
Well, that happens a lot.
Right.
The interesting thing was my dad was pretty sick for a long time, and my mom wasn't.
All right.
She had eyesight issues as she got older, so he was kind of her eyes, and she was his caregiver in these other ways. And it was a really good team in terms of aging.
Yeah.
And then my mom broke her hip, and she died it was not expected that was happening. And there he was, the guy that we thought was going to go first, didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
3.5 years later, yes, but he had that 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Not really wanting to do it anymore.
Yeah.
He was done.
And that gets to be okay. Like he can say that's me that just died. So in effect, I'm what's left of what's dead, and
yeah,
I don't want to do it.
I had an interesting conversation with him about it because he'd say, that he goes, I'm not afraid to be dead.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, but I'm really afraid of the dying process.
And
I go, what part of it? He goes, I think it's going to hurt. I go, well, you're not in pain now. What evidence do you have that it's going to hurt? Maybe it'll be unbelievably peaceful. You don't really know. He's just like, yeah, he just kind of mumbled. It was like, but it was an interesting thing. He was so afraid of that process. Where he got that thinking, I don't really know.
Yeah, it's not unreasonable. I mean, it's a valid,
And it turned out that, my take on it was actually what happened, not the painful thing.
Right. But there's certainly no guarantee.
No.
And again, like being able to say, I think on this date, that'll be it. And then if he's like, I changed my mind, I'll keep going for a little while. Like they get to do that too, I can just see that becoming more of a thing. I don't know. Maybe it won't, but it seems to make sense to me that our thinking will evolve on that. Because some people really just, it's cruel to continue to have them live in a way that.
Yeah, I mean, they have stuff now in place in California, but it's only for people that are they're terminal, and there's all these rules, and you got to do it a certain way. It's just, not that I mean, I think a lot of people probably just go ahead and do that when they're sick, and they don't go through any of that, and we just don't know about it.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, that's heavy.
Yeah, did you think this was going to go this way?
I don't know. I never know which way they're going to go.
Let me ask you this. Do you meditate?
I meditate. Yeah, I meditate every day.
Yeah, me too.
I don't do big orchestrated meditation because I don't do it. And I mean, I mean to, I just don't. So what I do is I take micro meditations throughout the day. Like I just try to reset mentally. And if I can do it longer, I do. But my nap is part of that. Like I get to nap because that's well-being. And so I start by meditate, and I can fall asleep in an instant. So I try to stay awake a little longer. But yeah, at a red light, anywhere, I take a moment to just do a little bit. And then if I think of it, I'm not afraid to spend 10, 15 minutes in a zone meditating.
Can you imagine if they had taught that in school?
Boy.
Or, it's not even really teach. It's just sort of show that as an option. That never came up one time.
Yeah.
I always think about how many valuable things I had to learn on my own. That school would have been a great place to introduce these things.
That sounds like Brenna talking. Like they didn't teach us stuff that we need to know.
Well, certainly, just basic, car maintenance, how to save money, how to buy a house,
right? Things
that everyone kind of has to do.
How to get a job,
how to shake hands.
Oh my gosh!
A lot of people don't know how to shake hands.
Yeah.
I taught my kids that.
Did you?
Yeah, we had sort of. Fun classes.
What's your basic class for how to shake hands?
A firm handshake, look the person in the eye, and smile.
What's a firm handshake? Let me shake your hand. This is what I think is a firm handshake. I've given you a solid hand, but I'm not trying to crush you.
Right. The crushing ones are kind of weird. That's like a dominance thing or something that people do.
Because there's people all over the world that will give you a much more dainty.
Or they'll put the thumb inside so you're holding their entire like a dead fish.
Yeah.
I'm like, who taught you how to shake hands? But that is a first impression of confidence, of somebody that likes themselves, that's somebody that's connecting.
Yeah.
It's a really simple thing to teach a kid.
Look them in the eye, shake their hands.
Yeah, I never had handshaking classes.
Right.
In my house, but I taught my kids that way.
There are things that we find important. 2 classes.
Two classes, they got it.
A lot of spanking for reinforcement. You did it wrong, right, Brenna? That's how we do it. She gets a whooping and a yelling at.
And also goal setting.
Okay.
hitting, how do you accomplish things in your life? They don't teach those basic skills. A lot of people go, well, this is an interesting thing.
Yes.
A friend of mine has a friend who's a school teacher, who's a middle school teacher, and he asked his students, do you have enough power there?
We're good.
He asked his students to what they wanted to be when they grew up.
Okay.
Take a guess what the number one answer was of middle schoolers.
Musician.
Okay. I'm going to give you a shot at
Something like video games.
something with video games. Okay, this blew me away as it did him. This is what they wanted to be. Famous.
Oh, okay, just famous, yeah.
Just famous. And he said, for what? We don't care. We just want to be famous.
Yeah.
I don't know. That made me sad. I just felt like, wow, that's an actual career? Is fame?
I mean, this is the thing, like, Brenna and I kind of had this conversation the other day because she's still figuring it out. She's 21, and there's 40 more years of still figuring it out ahead of her. And that's okay. But when you graduate from high school, if you said, I want you to make a list of every single career you can think of, that number that's going to be on that page, it's not 50. It's going to be 33, nurse, doctor, firefighter, policeman, banker, teacher. Fuck, it's getting hard. Engineer, both kinds. Like,
train and
and math,
civil.
Yeah, train and civil, right? And I think we're selling ourselves short because first off, we all know that we're unhappy in workaday lives. Some people are great at that and they want to grind and all that kind of thing, and that's their happy place. That's always available to you. But there's so many other people that want to do something else. Like we're taught that, don't get a degree in music. You can't make any money in that. You can't? You can go to Vegas 4 hours away, and if you can play the fuck out of something, you can make money in that town. Standing on a goddamn corner, You can absolutely make music. Maybe you do that and you sell pharmaceuticals during the day, and then you go play a jazz gig at night until that happens, or it's just your side gig. There's a guy that plays the keys a couple nights a week at the Golden Steer. It's one of my favorite places to eat in Vegas. It's a steakhouse. And, who knows? Like, that's a guy, he probably gets paid a couple $100 a night when he does it. There's a zillion things you can do, but we don't let anybody know that there's a zillion things. And most everybody, and I'm going to ask you, this is my long, circuitous question to you. Most people our age, any age over above like 35, and you say, is this what you thought you were going to be? And how did you get here? They're all like, I have no fucking idea. I didn't know I would be here. It all makes sense in the rearview mirror, but it would be great to help people see that, like, worry less about the path and worry more about just what you do along the path.
Well, yeah. And none of the things I've done were presented to me as possibilities.
Right.
None of them. Not one of them.
You didn't go to school to become a Hollywood writer?
No, I did not. Who goes to school for that? You don't really do that, or and that's career number 3.
Right. Okay.
That's career number 3. Of varying degrees of success in the different ones.
Yeah.
But I started out. I went to college for nothing. Just general studies, I guess they called it. And while I was there, I was always into blues music. And I started to play the harmonica. It's just a hobby. And then I got obsessed with it.
Okay.
And I practiced and I practiced and I met these guys and I started to play in bands. And that was my first career. I just started doing it. And I was living on almost nothing. I was in my early 20s. I didn't need a lot.
You were broke in your early 20s? I'm looking at Brenna right now.
I was living on maybe, at the time, in the early 70s, was maybe living on $150 a week.
Wow.
Which was, I don't know what that would be now, $300 maybe.
Well, whatever. Yeah. Maybe it's $500.
But it was it was in Ohio. It wasn't expensive, and I didn't need that much, because I was pursuing something that I really cared about. And then I segued. A comedy club opened in the town I was in Columbus, Ohio. I said, I want to try that.
Yeah.
Now. I was doing both for a little while. And I went, now there's actual work doing this. I can open up for real comedians as a new comedian and travel around. I was already traveling a little bit.
Right.
So I started doing that, and I was making $250 a week.
And getting like some free, like, I guess not wings back then. It would be like free grilled cheese sandwich every now and then.
There was a lot of free things that sort of accompanied the nightclub life, but and a lot of hazards.
Yeah.
So and I eventually, started making more and more money doing that, and I was making a pretty decent living. And I came out to Los Angeles and did that for a while, and then segued into becoming a television writer. So none of that growing up in Ohio was on the radar. Not offered.
No, not offered and not explained and not to be expected. And if anything, if you had said, I think I might like to go to Hollywood and write, you would have got a verbal beating from everybody you talked to.
Well, I did. I mean, I was like, I actually had my dad, again, I had a conversation with him. He said, I'm sorry if I disparaged the things you were doing and tried to discourage you. He goes, but I was really afraid for you because I would have been afraid.
Right.
Pretty enlightened thing to say.
Yeah.
Very kind, after the fact of, like, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah. I was telling, as I try to pass these lessons on to my daughter, and she's sitting next to me right now. We were talking as we got detoured through downtown Santa Monica, which is always a good thing. Though at the time I got frustrated by it. But it's actually wonderful to drive around. And I was like, you should do something like just come here, live here, be poor, and just live in Santa Monica. And whatever you do, you're doing here. Because that's a wonderful thing to do, or Tahoe or whatever. Pick a place where people go to vacation and make that the place where you do whatever it is that you do. Even if it's pharmaceutical sales or whatever, changing tires for people. And then at night, you grab that Hohner, blues, blues harp B, and you're like, I only got, can we all play in the key of B? That's all I got. That's all I can afford.
Well, this whole town is that. It's people that go, you know what, I'm going to try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The worst thing that could happen is it doesn't work out and you go do something else.
Yeah.
But worse than that is not trying it, being at the end going, I wish I would have tried that. Why didn't I take that chance?
We've had so many elite level performers and just people that have done things at the highest level and not necessarily the top level. No, you absolutely are part of that mix. But you take anyone who didn't make that leap. Like we have Dexter Holland from Offspring, and he's got a PhD and everything else and super smart, but he also is the lead singer of the Offspring. I mean, it's incredible. But the difference between him and the college band next to them is that they, even from within their band, one of the guys is like, this is all fun and everything. We're having a great time, but I'm just going to go be a pediatrician because there's a bunch of smart dudes, that just happen to keep playing. And so, like Noodles, the guitar player, like he was a janitor at a school. He's like, I'm just going to make this money and then see how this band thing goes. And it just kept going. It kept going and going and going. And the difference between that guy and the other guy who plays guitar great in his garage is that something out of his control happened. Noodles met the right guys at the right time. The need for benefits and money for a kid, didn't come along for Noodles or whoever that guy is. And they just, the path evolves differently for people. It's often way out of our control.
I just got very grateful that my name isn't Noodles.
That was Brenna's nickname for a while.
Well, a little kid, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's... How did he get the name Noodles?
Who knows?
Oh, okay.
Just whatever. I give out nicknames a lot. But yeah, that step between getting to where they're at, oftentimes, we've had a bunch of people say, I wasn't the best horn player or whatever. I'm just the guy that kept getting gigs. And something about that, I practiced and I'm excellent now, but there are guys that are better than me. I just kept doing it for whatever reason,
Yeah.
Driven or luck or just I didn't know what else to do, like those are all legitimate reasons to get down the road.
I remember talking to this friend of mine when I was moving out of Columbus to go, I forget where I was. I think I was going to Boston to do stand-up. I decided I was going to move there because I could make a living and not have to travel that much. And I told her what I was doing, and she just looked at me like completely puzzled.
Yeah.
She goes, I could never do that. And I go, what do you mean? Of course you could.
Yeah.
You just do it.
You just do it.
And she goes, no, I couldn't. I couldn't leave my mom and my dad. And this is a almost, 27-year-old person. I'm like, you come back, There's planes.
There's planes.
There's phones.
They got trains. They got cars and gas, all that stuff. But she's probably right, though. She couldn't. Like, it's just insurmountable.
Well, for her, that worked. And that's okay. I mean, I don't, for me it didn't work, so I didn't do that. I'm not even saying she was right or wrong. I'm just saying that was the stronger drive.
There's the people in my life that started their thing when they were 18, 20, 21 years old. Maybe they didn't go to college, but they got that job. Let's say it was with the city. That's the easy one, right? You got a job with the city, and they started out, part-time painting stop sign lines on the street, and getting paid $5.85 an hour. Maybe you're making $7.26 an hour. But, you're like, you're working with the city, making that much money part-time? Why that? I'm going to college. And then, 5 years later, they're like, no, I'm the guy that runs the guys that drive the truck. And then, next thing you know, they're like, I'm the second in command at Parks and Rec. And then the next thing, and now they're like, yeah, I'm done. I've retired.
I met a guy like that at the UPS store the other day. He had driven a big blue bus for the city of Santa Monica. And then he became a, supervisor.
Right.
And he was, he's retired for like 15 years already. And he was telling me about all the countries he travels to and how much he's enjoying his retirement. And I'm like, wow, maybe I should have went that route.
Yeah.
It was just, there was a comfort level to the, I guess, the routine of having that steady.
There was something like that.
But maybe he loved it. I don't know. He seemed pretty content.
Well, they figure out how to do that, right? Like, I don't know. I just kept doing it. It's the same thing as the hornblower. It's like I just kept doing it. I just kept showing up, and I put my name for stuff, and sometimes I said yes, sometimes I said no, and 25 years later, I'm like, I don't know if I have to do this anymore. And it's we don't have to be so afraid of those things those decisions, we're going to figure it out.
And I think that's probably the perfect way to go for certain people.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been for me, but I think it's really kind of, I understand it.
Okay. What do you think is next? I mean, as you look, like your folks have passed, you've had these other folks that have died in your life, people that are close to you. Does it change how you do things? Does this mark a changing point for you at all, do you think?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that because, a lot of my time and energy was spent with, helping my parents and staying connected to them because they needed it. They needed it. I made a commitment, I don't know, maybe 15 or so years ago to call them once a day just to say hello and tell them I love them. Just as a way to, make amends for things that I did when I was younger and just be a kind, attentive son. Even though it was just, hi, I'm calling to tell you I love you, I got to go. But I did it almost every single day.
That's fantastic, by the way. I need to do more of that.
Yeah, and there were days I didn't want to do it. And then I would say to myself, oh, come on, you got a minute.
Yeah. You do.
Yeah, so I did it. And there were conversations that I didn't want to have that I just was quiet and listened.
Dr. Ruth says the same thing about sex with your partner, and she's still around. She's in her 90s. She's like, you've certainly got 2 minutes to give your partner a little something, And not just that all the time, but like, there's no reason to go for extended periods of time. But what do we do as a norm? We're like, I'm tired, I'm sick, I'm angry, there's 100 reasons to not do it. And it's like, no, wait a second, spend some time investing in the person that you love.
Well, just even listening to things that you've heard 600 times that you're not interested in at all.
Why are you listening to me? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
totally.
Like, this again? All right.
Yeah, that's funny. So what is next? I mean, like, how do you take the lessons, like calling your folks once a day, seeing the people transition on, and your life moves on without them? I mean, what are you doing? What's exciting to you?
Well, what's exciting to me? Wow. What's exciting to me isn't what it used to be. It's not excitement.
Okay.
And what's exciting to me is being less reactive to outside things, to meditate more, to wear life like a loose garment, to work on those things. That's exciting to me. A certain level of comfortableness and contentment. I'm not saying laziness and apathy or anything like that.
Right.
I'm saying just focusing on the limited time that I have, enjoying more moments in a simpler way. I'm not that successful at it all the time. Sometimes I am.
But it's a good thing to try to be successful at. And even if you're not where you think you ought to be, you're probably setting the bar too high anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to not be as neurotic or get as upset, take things personally. All those things that, I wasn't taught how to do that I know to do now, I'm trying to practice them.
Okay.
I'm also excited about the podcast. That's a fairly new thing in my life, and I get to talk to really interesting people doing really cool stuff. So, as you know, because you're doing the same thing.
It's incredible the conversations that you get to have with people and what, I mean, for sure sharing it with the world, but I do this, and this is what I've learned. I didn't do this to start, but I do it, and I do it more than ever because it's just so enriching. I just want to spend my time doing it, Because
bottom line, it's connection.
Yeah.
And if we're not connecting to other people, why are we even doing any of this?
Right. No, absolutely. I wanted to ask you this because it's one of the things we've come across here in Hollywood as writers, people in the art of telling stories is so a guy that sponsors the show quite often. His name's Jeff Calhoun. His company's called We Fix Your Script. And he helps people fix their script. He helps them understand it. Like everybody's got a movie. Everybody. At least one, if not 10 in their head. But how do you get it from your head on someone's table? That's a huge journey. And so, he does a number of things. He does, he gives us time into workshops. He does consultations for free and all that kind of stuff. But he also makes his money saying, I just want you to do these 9 things. Now let's put them in order. And he guides a person through. And if they want him to do the whole thing, he does the whole thing. But if they want to do it, he'll sort of be like their sensei. This is focus here. What is this person learning here? You have to turn this here. I need some irony here, and helps the person figure it out. They're called We Fix Your Script. But why would there be people that have made it in this town on story? And I mean, not people who run a writer's room, but people who are executive producers, showrunners. Why would they be so hard on that discipline? Why not just let someone see if they've got the chops? And if they've got it, I mean, that's the talent that Jeff brings is legitimate because you hear him talking, you're like, wow, yeah, there's no doubt. This guy knows what he's doing. But why would there be any negativity towards that? I mean, you know this town, writers. Why is that, you think?
There's negativity toward what he does?
Yeah. Yeah. People no, that's you're making money off of people that have a dream or something. And they should learn how to do it themselves or something like that.
Well, yeah, but I don't agree. I mean, I'm stammering because I'm sort of shocked by that. I kind of learned on the job. Mm-hmm. I was lucky enough to get a job off of being a good stand-up writer.
Right.
So my first writing job was basically doing jokes on a sitcom.
Sure.
And then I learned how to do the other stuff while I was there. So somebody was teaching me.
Yeah. Someone was paying for that.
Somebody else was. Yeah, I wasn't paying them. I was. I was getting paid to do one thing.
Yeah.
But I went, I better learn this other stuff.
Mm-hmm. No.
And there's books.
Sure.
But there's nothing like another person going. It's a faster learning curve.
Sure.
Having a person do it.
A book is linear. And hardly anyone thinks that way.
I think people learn more, I can't even say the word, experientially.
I like it. I like you.
Is that the word? I can never say it.
Experientially.
Experientially. By doing.
Right. Yeah.
I don't have a block in my brain for saying that word.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, if the person is not good at what they do and they stretch it out just to make money, that's a different thing. Mm-hmm. Somebody who actually is going, I can help you.
Yeah.
And people are happy to pay them if it's helping them.
I mean, this is the thing. Jeff does so many free workshops. And I say 15-minute consultation. If I'm honest, he does way more than that because he wants the person to succeed, and then he also helps get, it's you should put this in a competition. I've got competitions that I'm partnered with. I've got people that are like, any script you send me, I want to read it because you don't send crap. So access to that's valuable.
It's totally worth it for somebody that wants to do that. I mean, there's a lot of ways to speed it up. That would be one of them. I would assume if Jeff is good, which it sounds like he's very good. Yeah. There's some value in that. I mean, there's college classes at UCLA that do that. Why is something wrong with that?
You can pay UCLA.
Yeah, but really, I mean, yes, doing it is the key, and doing it again and again and again. You're not going to get good at anything by just taking a class.
Right. Right.
But if you have a talent, now I don't know if he says to people, you don't have.
No, he's honest.
You don't have a fucking clue, and go.
Well, he won't do
else.
that. He's not that kind of a.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do that either.
Yeah, he's not that kind of a critique guy or a critic, but he will say, "Here's where you need to work," and that's always the case. There's always your script is never done, but you can always say, "This needs work. This needs work. This needs work," and if the person can do that work, then their script will improve. I would submit this in its current form. You want me to tell you where to put work in? I would put work in. You can do that in a positive way, because how many people in this town were told you fucking suck and you'll never do this?
Yeah,
and they're standing there with a golden statue in their hand. Yeah. So that's proven to be not an accurate, description for someone. Like, I don't know, why not tell them where they need to work?
Yeah. Did you ever read that letter? I think it's probably a real letter. I saw it on Facebook, so it might not be.
Yeah.
It's a rejection letter to Einstein for his relativity theory for his thesis.
Yeah.
It's too abstract, and it's not based in enough of this and that. So we're very sorry. We can't accept your thesis.
There's a lady.
I hope it's true, because it's such a great letter to read.
Oh, no, there's another story just like that. There's a lady who wrote a very powerful book on nature versus nurture. And basically saying, us parents, your role as a nurturer is pretty insignificant, and we can't scientifically find it. Okay, maybe it exists, but no one's been able to prove it. And so she wrote that. It's pretty inflammatory, because all these folks are like, you can improve. Like, no, you can't prove that, because, look, you've got 3 different kids in the family, 3 different outcomes. So, how powerful was your nurture ability? And she uses actual, studies in science, and because she's not siloed, she was outside the industry working at that level, the PhD level, but she wouldn't have a PhD. How come? Because the guy, let's say his name is Bob Nickman. Bob Nickman from Harvard goes, you know what? You're just not cut out. And she was early on, so a woman graduating from there was a big deal.
Yeah.
He's like, you're not cut out for it. You probably need to go on. We're not going to grant you a degree, so goodbye. Gives her a letter signed, Bob Nickman. Well, she writes this book. The book is... And she got it, and she was sick. She wasn't kind of a shut-in. She wasn't able to leave the home because of her illness. And so she wrote textbooks. And so she got smarter and did all of the work she wasn't allowed to do, and wrote the textbooks for the people that were going to do all the work. So she's like, I took all these pieces, and I realized I can't write these bullshit books anymore because they're not right. Because if this is true and this is true, how can this be true? Mm-hmm. So she wrote her book, and she won a huge award. And that award was called the Bob Nickman Award.
The guy that told her to...
Yeah. So you're like, wait a second, So, when people tell you, no, you can't do it, shit, why not hire someone like me, fix your script? People say all the time, I've got an idea for a script. I'm like, well, stop what you're doing. Call Jeff. It's free. Call him. If you have an idea, call him, I've got a book and I want to write a script. Then you should talk to Jeff, because he's going to knock down barriers for you and make it so that you can't go any faster. If you suck, you suck. And if you've never written a script, guess what? You suck.
Well, you have to write a really bad, terrible first script and make every mistake that everybody makes.
Yeah.
You have to do that.
You have to.
There's no way around a terrible first script. There's no way around it. So write the bad one. Get it out of the way.
When you see a bad script, and I don't know how many really rookie scripts you get, but how many words do you have to read before you're like, I'm not reading another word? Not because I don't like you, but because I know what's in this, and it's not good enough.
Less than 5 pages.
Right. Yeah, it's fat. And a page is not like a page of a book. There's not a whole lot going on, but by the first page, certain things have to be set up. And if they're not set up, you have to know the rules to know that you're breaking the rules on purpose.
Right. And you can see the crispness or the, you can see maybe... they're setting something up that's really interesting. There's some technique. There's a lot of things you can see pretty quickly. And then there's all the sort of rookie mistakes, A lot of people get enamored with, a cool scene idea. The guy's going to walk in and there's going to be 20 people in chairs and none of them are going to have heads. Well, that's a really great image.
Yeah.
But it's not a script. It's just like, okay, you got a cool, maybe it's about a killer that does that. But now what?
Yeah, what's next?
Yeah.
Like all of the, when you watch Deadpool, so clever. There's so many jokes, and it's just really great. And those guys clearly work really well together when they write, But it's not about the big, huge scene. It's the stuff in between that has to be good too. Like don't make me sit through a bunch of nonsense because you had these 5 great ideas.
Right. Well, it's why do I care is really the question.
Oh yeah.
How do you get? What are you doing that's going to make that person in the audience care? I had a friend he had a little piece of paper on his computer screen that was ... and what's the audience doing while all this is going on?
Yeah.
Just to remind them, this is what you're trying to do.
How often do you consider other perspective, the audience perspective, someone else in the scene's perspective, as you're writing something, and does that influence how you?
Yeah, of course. I'm always thinking about. I always think character first. I'm like, who is this person? What do they want? And what are the obstacles I can put in their way to get it? And then from
what's
there,
the minimum it takes to make a character for you? Like, I need to know where this guy went to college, what color shirt he's got on, or what is it?
It's more of an emotional thing for me.
Okay.
I just try to feel who this person is.
Okay.
It's empathy, really.
Gotcha.
Usually it's based on something that I've experienced. It doesn't just come out of nowhere.
Right. Okay. I interrupted you, so.
No, I was just thinking about, any characters I've come up with, They always have some sort of a hook to them that people can relate to.
Right.
Are they, somebody who is irreverent? Is that their main feature? Well, everybody can relate to that. Everybody's got an irreverent side. Oh, this guy's saying what I would love to say, but I can't. Or I'd go to jail if I did what this guy did, but it's a character, so you can, So maybe that's I think everyone's got sort of a main feature of who they are, personality-wise. And they also experience everything else. So let's say the character is irreverent. That's their main feature.
Right.
What is an irreverent person like when they're sad? What is an irreverent person like when they're angry? What is an irreverent person like when they're in love?
Yeah. Okay.
So that's still their main feature, but they still have all the other colors of a human being.
I think about, I'm really big on U2. I've now mentioned him twice in this episode, but Bono's ability to look at love from all these different angles. Like there's a core love, but there's all these different spherical points that come in. Like this version of love, the mirror of that, where it's love, but it's dark, all these kind of things. And I think about how do you find these different perspectives for that specific emotion? Because if you just say love, that's not good enough.
Not really.
Yeah, right. And so then I think what kind of moments are good practice moments to reveal an emotion or an array of emotions? And then what's too much? And I'm going to get somewhere with this, but when I think about this, I think about someone like George Bush the Younger. He comes into office. It's like a status quo presidency. You ran Texas well. Okay, run the country the same way. We'll be pretty stoked. We'll be excited about that. It's like, hey, we got a bunch of money. Everybody take some money back. Let's get rid of this surplus, put it back out to you guys, and spend it and go crazy. We're going to keep on doing this. And then he's in an elementary school reading books, and someone, Scott Card whispers in his ears, and his face just, holy shit, the whole world just changed. And how do you capture that? What is even that? You can't even call that an emotion. It's such a...
You're talking about 9/11?
Yeah, it's not just a plot twist, but it's like a plot loop-de-loop with a double twist in the loops. And, whatever he thought he was going to do, man. And then the guy, Andrew Oak, the First Ladies man, was talking about Lady Bird and how she was at the Johnson Ranch. The people were prepping for the barbecue they were going to have with Kennedy in a couple hours, and someone's pissed off because the sweet corn isn't right. And all of a sudden, I'm like, you probably could still go to that kitchen right now and pick up the jaws off the floor because they were all just waylaid by that.
What are we going to do with all this potato salad?
Yeah, God damn it, I told you he doesn't like red pepper. Wait, hold on. Wow. And so how do you, as a writer, do you need moments like that to kind of play? I mean, that's if I was a writer, I would think about those things. And like, that'd be like my gym. Like, how do I get powerful at creating emotions? Like, how do I describe that emotion? It's so impossible.
Yeah. I mean, you need those things, and certainly for writing big drama,
yeah.
Those big events that spin the story in a whole new way.
Right.
It's, it's just, I always want to know, is it believable in some way? It could be outrageous,
right?
But is it something that could really happen? Because if it isn't, I would say probably don't do it.
So how far can the audience jump with you?
It depends on the genre. I mean,
that's true.
But if you're basing it on some kind of reality, it should be. You should not be able to shoot holes in it,
right?
For reality. If it's some sort of a crazy fantasy, even that is based in something real if it's good.
Yeah, like a lot of the movies that are roller coaster rides where you're just like, impossible, impossible, impossible. You're not suspending disbelief because you believe it's real. You're suspending disbelief because it's fun. And,
that's a roller coaster ride. That's a whole other thing. I don't enjoy most of those but myself for that very reason.
Right. Here comes King Kong. Oh, and T-Rex. Oh, Jesus Christ, and a panda bear. Like, man, this is crazy. It never stops.
It's comic book stuff. It's just not my thing. Other people love that stuff.
So let's go back full circle. So you've lost a bunch of folks recently. Your dad among them, your friend. Who were the other three?
They're other friends. Yeah. I'm hitting that age. I'm 64 where I'm losing contemporaries, which now that's considered extremely young in the 60s,
Yeah.
Used to be fairly common. I kind of look at it like, well, let's say I lived to be my dad's age, and I'm 64, he was 95. I'm in the last third. How do I want to do that?
Sure.
Do I want to spend it spinning in my head the way I've been doing for X number of years about different things? I certainly feel like I like to work. I like to do cool stuff, but I'm not like driven ambitious.
Okay.
Like I was when I was younger. And the reason I was I thought it would fix something that wasn't right. I know that it's not. So now it's just a thing that I do that I enjoy.
Right.
Rather than I've got to get from here to there, then I'll be happy. I'm not as jealous of other people, that kind of stuff. Not to say that I don't have moments, but of course I do. So it's just a different thing. I don't know if maybe it's a drop in testosterone. You think that's part of it?
I think it's a combination with all those things. Lessons learned. We've got on the show. His name's Dr. Bob. He's like the Neil deGrasse Tyson for classical music, basically. If I was going to unfairly characterize, because he's actually older than Neil, so Neil would be like the Dr. Bob. But he's in his 60s. And he's like, I figured it out right around 60 years old. This is a couple of years back. And I'm like, have you still figured it out? He's like, oh my gosh, I'm still figuring it out. So if we're all figuring it out, again, why are we being so hard on ourselves? It's okay to continue to figure it out. And you struggle with different levels of things, but it's all right to I don't know. I keep changing my mind on what I know, and the standard thing. Like the more I learn, the less I know. And the other thing I think about a lot is we sure have access to a lot of information, but that doesn't give you access to wisdom.
No. What's information doubling at a rate now that's accelerating, apparently?
Yeah.
If it took 100 years to double our information, and then it took maybe 50.
Yeah.
Now it's like an hour.
Yeah. It's really fast. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not about knowledge. It really is about a mastery of emotions, of empathy, of culture, of all of those things. Don't you think?
Yeah. And I found a lot of it comes from a lot of the joy is sort of comes from helping other people, which is not my default setting. I have to, really sort of work at that. there's a selfishness that I think most human beings are sort of have.
Yeah.
You know, a friend of mine used to do a joke about if a baby could, it would strangle you for a cookie.
I think the same thing is true for a cat. Like if that cat was 50 pounds bigger, it would kill you all the time. Like, I don't like this. Yeah. Man, we've been going for 72 minutes. So we ought to just chill out.
Plus, it's post-lunch. We're probably going into the...
Yeah, we're getting into we're putting the audience to sleep mode. But I really appreciate it, man. Like, I want you to feel always welcome to come on the show. Whether I invite you or not, invite yourself. Just say, hey, come on, let's do one. Yeah. Because the thing I've learned about doing this is that the more perspectives, the more people, not necessarily like only 20 people in the room, but like the more you and I can share moments with somebody else, it's like exponentially increasing my experiential learning. And I know the audience gets a lot out of that too. So
I hope they do. I hope that you have your listeners enjoy what you do, because it's really important to bring out these different perspectives and get to hear what other people think.
Yeah. And there's no doubt that's true. And it's such a different media. I'm going to be fair. A different media than what we're used to on TV. Point, counterpoint. 7 minutes done. Commercials. Point, counterpoint. Like, no hyperbole. Let's just talk about where we really need to get to. I'm not solving racism today. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a cappuccino and see if we can't just get calm so we can get some clarity, gather some perspective, do less, but do it better.
Let's ask the listeners, when this is over and you shut it off, sit in a chair for 5 minutes and just be.
Yeah.
Try that. Can you do it? Turn your phone off and just go, I'm just going to be like a little kid again. I'm just going to sit here and just be. Let's try that, podcasters, listeners. I'm not going to do that, but I want you guys to do it.
Bob Nickman, everybody.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.